Welcome, everybody. We are back for another episode of On a Water Break, and I am so excited about this one. This is a special percussion recap for WGI 2024. Finally getting it going. And we've got a couple great guests and hosts with us here today. We got Chris Rutt is back with us here from California. Chris, how you doing, man?
What's up?
Dude, I'm excited. It's been a little while.
In a minute.
I actually feel like we always talk about color guard on here, so for me to have a full call of percussion people I'm fulfilled and excited. Happy to have you here, Matt Carraher. Happy you're back on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Absolutely, dude. And we have a special guest with us today, Callie Quire, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Infinity. Callie.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're real excited. I think it's a cool idea this year to do these recaps with someone that's actually marching too, so we get to kind of blend it all together. But why don't you catch our listeners up to speed, tell them about who you are, where you march, and your marching career up until now. You'll get about 32 counts to do it. You ready?
Yep.
Cool.
All right. Hi. My name is Callie Quire. I am 22 years old. I'm aging out with Infinity Percussion this season. I've marched with Infinity for 7 years. I also marched with the Boston Crusaders in 2022, and I was supposed to march with them in 2020. Rest in peace. I am the center marimba for Infinity and one of their ensemble leaders. And I don't know, I've been doing this for a really long time, so I'm super excited to talk about what we've got going on. So thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 7 years of Infinity. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Long time.
Insane. So I guess, did you start back in like 2017 or?
Yeah. I started in 2017. I was like 14 or 15 years old. It was crazy. I marched with I2 for 2 years, our second open class ensemble. And then I was in World since 2019. So World class since I was a senior in high school.
Wow.
Impressive.
So I2, did I3 exist back then, or was it just I2 in the World group?
It was, I think I3, I think their first year was 2016 or 2017. So they did exist when I started, but I think it was one of those first like pilot years. So yeah, it was a lot of development going on.
Well, clearly you are a great member of Infinity. You've been around probably, I can't imagine someone's been there 8 years and they're still marching. So
I know. I almost had 8. I took 1 year off. So
why don't you tell us a little bit about your show this year and sort of how it's been going for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our show this season is titled We Were Here. It's kind of like a pretty artistic examination of maybe like the legacy that you leave after you're gone. So pretty esoteric, classic world-class percussion stuff. We have a lot of really interesting source music this year, a lot of John Bellion stuff, some Switchfoot in there, which is something that I've never had the pleasure of playing, but it's really, really entertaining. The story kind of follows, a single character, or, hopefully the audience like inputs themselves on that character through, the birth of something, their idea, art, love, whatever, and then the life cycle, and then eventually the death of that thing, which is, very heavy. It's the heaviest show I've ever had the pleasure to march, but it's really beautiful. I'm really enjoying it so far. So.
Yeah, Chris or Matt, did any of you guys get a chance to see anything from their show this year? I just peeked it this morning, so I wanted to ask you guys first.
I've only seen some lot footage, but I haven't seen any show footage quite yet. But Infinity, man, you guys are on the ups and ups, and I'm so excited to see how much growth you guys have had over the past couple of years. So, yeah, from what I've seen on the lot videos, you guys sound amazing.
Thank you so much. It's really been, I've been there for a lot of that growth, so it's been really nice to see it happen.
That's true.
That's funny.
Yeah, same for me. I have not seen any show footage, and I kind of like, I kind of avoid watching show footage as much as I can so I can take it in person for the first time. But I mean, the log footage, same thing. It sounds great. And I'm super excited to see you guys this year.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, as I was watching, does the whole battery go into like coffins at the end of the show? Is that
Oh my God. Yeah.
what's going on? Because I
Yeah,
saw it at the end and I was like, okay, all right,
yeah,
we're really
they really went for it, because we have these like we have these box props, and they first showed it to us and we were like, those kind of look like coffins, and they were like, oh, maybe, and then at the very end, yeah, they all kind of lay down, which is funny because I'm in the pit, right? So I never really see what's going on the floor until like I watch a video back. But I've been lucky enough where like I like end up playing like the last notes of the show on some like crotales or something, and I turn around, and so I actually get to see them like lay down, at the very end, and I was like, oh, that's what we're doing. Okay, cool. We're really hitting them in the face with it. So yes, they do basically lay down in coffins.
That's going to be crazy when they add the real ending on at finals. I don't even know where they're going to take this. The real ending is cremation.
Oh God! Oh no!
No, that's good. That's cool. I feel like I marched United for a long time. I teach United, and I actually feel like a little kinship as programs because we're both like cutting at the door to try to be in the top 5. And like lately, in my opinion, I kind of think that Infinity and United are starting to make good arguments why they might jump up into that category up there.
I absolutely agree. One of my best friends is teaching the pit this year at United. Joe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. He's the one with the really big red hair. He's telling me all about it, which is so much fun because we're kind of like, I love all the Boston guys at United. So
right.
I have all my family is there, so it's awesome. I love United. I'm a huge United fan.
You're like one unfortunate conversation where someone convinces you to move to the cold Northeast,
right?
Away from being in that ensemble.
Joe was trying to. He really was, because he was like, well, you got the one last year, and I graduated college, so I was like, well, I guess technically nothing's tying me here, but I was like, well, I gotta stick it out with the family,
It's good to tie it out. If you're a 6-year vet, tie it out for your 7th. Just
exactly right.
So we've got a lot of shows. I'm sure you love your show. I love my show. But if we weren't gonna talk about our own shows, what other shows do you think are interesting this year? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I was going to mention United. I've been watching y'all's show since like before it was released, hearing music and like, hearing music and like, and I actually know a lot of the people that march there, and oh my gosh, I'm in love with it. I love I'm a big Ian Moyer fan. I got to work under him, so I love his books, and Alex Beltran. They just do awesome stuff. So it's been really cool to see it with the uniforms and with the props, and like huge United fan. And then I've also been looking a lot of X's stuff, Rhythm X. I also have a friend that's marching there right now. He did Infinity for a long time with me. He's playing drum set, and oh my gosh, they're kicking butt. I love it. I'm a huge X fan too, but I just love the way they orchestrate their pit books. I'm a huge fan. I'm a pit person, so like it's just I've been eating that stuff up. Yeah. So United and X were the ones that I was going to talk about. It's perfect that you worked there.
Only 2 indoor groups I've ever marched, so I'll take that.
Oh, perfect. Look at that.
No, X is interesting to me this year because they're going to have a different identity now, like without Tim and with a kind of new visual design process.
Absolutely.
It's actually something that I thought was cool because I was taking a peek at the recaps, and X like really did very well in music at their last competition. And it was from Tom Rarick, who actually has been kind of knocking X for like the last couple of years in finals in the music caption. And that's kind of been the thing that's like keeping X from really getting competitive with Pulse. But Rarick gave them like a 90-87. It was like by far their best sub caption score at their last competition. It seems like it's actually maybe the other things that X is traditionally so like just straightforward good at, like the effect and the vis. They might have flipped it a little this year. I'm interested to see how it all comes together as it goes on.
Oh, me too.
Chris or Matt, do you guys got any groups you've been excited about?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, being in Southern California, it is stacked from Scholastic Junior all the way up to Independent World.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I was working the first SCPA show of the season a few weeks back, and I was flabbergasted by the level of excellence that everyone had from the moment they arrived on campus to their first beats. It's crazy what's going on here in California.
It is.
If we were told three of our favorite groups. I have 3, but I also have like 10. But if I had to pick 3 right now, my top 3 favorites, I had to write them down. I mean, Pulse is ridiculous. They had very low turnover rate from last season, so they have a lot of vets and a lot of guys and girls that are doing multiple drum corps right now, top drum corps. So Pulse is insane. They're great. RCC, I think this is probably the RCC show Carousel. I think this is probably the best RCC that's been around in 10 years.
I'm so excited to hear you say that because I've only seen the show announcement and I was really excited by it. Carousel with the circle and the trippy hand and everything. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a wonderful RCC year.
It's what Cirque du Soleil would be with drums on. Okay. The level of artistry, the level of creativity that they're doing on the floor is ridiculous. Yeah. That front ensemble is insane. Like, certifiably, they are insane. They are incredible. The notes they're playing are as nuts. And I don't want to give away what the show is and what it does, but there's some special little things that they do on the floor using some boxes that really catches you by surprise. And it's fun. It's exciting. It's fast. But yeah, RCC is ridiculous.
That gets me so excited, man. I was just talking to someone yesterday about how much respect I have for that design team, that they've been around forever. And they're never like derivative. They're never doing the same thing. They're never copying whatever anyone else does. Like, somehow RCC always finds a way to be like so artistic, so fresh, so unique.
Yep.
And like this year, it looks to me like they might be onto something really good.
I agree. And, and with their design team and with the pedigree they have and the collaboration with the Blue Devils, I mean, like, the sky's the limit with what they can think up and create. It really, I can't wait for you guys to see it. You'll love it. It's a hell of a show.
Nice.
For Scholastic World, I gotta go. It's going to be a dogfight between Chino Hills and Ayala. They are.
It always is.
Yes. Well, Ayala kind of took a little dip there for a few years, but they are back with a vengeance. They got these shiny, beautiful looking red Mapex drums this year. Those kids are playing. They're doing some fun stuff with the drums too. And I don't want to give it away, but they're doing some fun stuff with the drums, not necessarily on a Carraher. So yeah, Ayala is great. Chino Hills is Chino Hills. They are insane. They're playing so well, and it's a lot of fun to watch them do their thing. Yeah, full disclosure, my wife's the band director for the middle school that feeds into Chino Hills, so
you're the actual reason. Well, your wife is the actual reason Chino Hills is good.
It is a lot of fun to have that collaboration. And she's got a great staff of Shirley Taylor, who's running the front ensemble, and Zach Wilson, who's doing the battery, plus Seb Martinez, and just a bunch of Pulse guys come over and help out. And it's always wild when I'm like going to Townsend to go say hi to my wife and help out her program. You go watch the drumline rehearse, and there's like 6 Pulse kids in there teching a junior high drumline. I'm just like,
yeah. It's insane. It's like, it's a testament. That's the best program out there for high school. Like, that's the standard. I mean, it's not the standard. It's nothing standard about it, but that's the bar that's set for what the activity really can be at the highest level.
I'll tell you though, it's starting the junior high kids in 7th grade, they get 6 years of instruction by the same people, the same technique, the same music. It's 6 years of it. It's kind of why Chino Hills and Pulse are what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like quality instruction forever. And like I think too, I hadn't considered the consistency in staff for years. It's not like the revolving door of approach and technique. Like they're doing the same thing forever and ever. And that's why they're so good at it by the time that they're 18 in the snare line or the quad line or whatever.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
It's a lot of fun. Oh, and last thing, two little groups, well, not little, two groups that are fighting out in open class, Ranch Cucamonga High School and Great Oak. Those two are within like Rancho Cucamonga. Yeah, Rancho Cucamonga.
I was going to ask if you read my recap or something, because I was going to talk about them after the commercial break too.
Oh, no, I didn't. Well, then let's do a commercial. We'll come back to talk about it.
We'll come back. We'll talk about Rancho Cucamonga.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy, and here are your announcements coming from the box. You want to drink up On a Water Break Lost in Translation with Cynthia Bernard, uncover the glitz and glamour of Twirlers with On a Water Break in Rhinestones hosted by Lexi Duda, get the insider scoop from the stands with On a Water Break from the stands with Cindy Berry, aka Leander Mama, and join the band family in On a Water Break family style with Stephanie Click, plus much more to come. Don't miss our recent episode celebrating Black History Month with insightful roundtables and amazing guests. And guess what? Women's History Month is just around the corner. Make sure to follow us on social media at On a Water Break for all the latest updates and bonus content. Got something to share or a burning question? Email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com. So don't be the person that doesn't tell their friends about a water break. Make sure everyone stays hydrated. Okay, field staff, take it away.
Let's reset.
Welcome back. Matt, why don't you get us going? I didn't get a chance to ask you yet. What are some of the things you're most excited for this season?
Yeah, totally. I mean, being from the East Coast, I there's so many good groups in California that I want to talk about, even from being over here. A couple that didn't get mentioned. Personally, I love Broken City Percussion. I can't wait to see. I've seen some lot footage. I haven't seen the whole show yet, but it looks super cool. And I just the way that those guys write is so like just insanely musical. It's like I don't think anybody writes battery percussion the way that they do, and it's like somebody singing. It's incredible. And
well, so it's funny you say that, because talking with Mike Jackson and Kevin Shaw, I mean, Mike Jackson has long said that he wants to write percussion parts that are musical, not just rams and just jamming notes down your face. He wants to have that soft touch. He wants to be musical with his writing. And Kevin's the same way with his front ensemble writing too. I was astounded with Carolina Crown this past summer and how much the percussion program sounded like Broken City. I'm like, wow, this is what you get when you take Carolina Crown brass and Broken City percussion and put them together. It was like what they do is unlike anybody else in the activity.
Totally. And it's so interesting too, because Kevin is such like an inquisitive and thoughtful person.
Oh yeah.
And you can just see it exude through the writing, and it's like it's got such a personal touch to it. And I don't know Mike personally, but I know Kevin a little bit, and it's just like it's just so cool to see the way that they do it. It's just totally different than anybody else.
Yeah, and their influence is also like kind of magnetic over the activity over the last couple of years. Like you can see no one really writes exactly like them, but you can totally hear that a lot of people have been trying to write like them.
Yeah.
Or like at least taking inspiration from it too, which I think you don't actually see that a lot. I can't think of another writer in the last 5 to 10 years that has actually like kind of changed the game of the way people write in the way that Mike Jackson and Kevin Shaw have.
Yeah, totally. The other group from California, Scholastic World, that I don't think they've been out yet, but I'm super excited to see is Vista Marietta. They kind of came out of nowhere last year, and were like I really enjoyed the writing, and I thought it was really tasty. Chris, you might know better. I think it's the same team, right? Is it Kevin and Mike write for them too? So it makes total sense. Yeah.
It's that whole hierarchy system for Mike and Kevin. So you got Vista Marietta, you've got the Broken City, and they have a junior high program too, Warm Springs Middle School, which is doing the same similar type of Mike Jackson, Kevin Shaw shows. Not nearly as anything difficult than what the other groups are doing, but it's that same touch, it's that same feel, it's that same very esoteric type shows. But the kids are great. They do a great time. They do a great job at that show. But yeah, it's same team, Kevin and Mike.
Yeah. And then I have to shout out, our other East Coast team, Mid-Atlantic team, George Mason. I think their show is really cool this year. One of our one of my staff members is marching there this year, and so it's been really cool to see. She was like sort of a last minute addition. They needed another vibe player, and so she jumped in and was like, "Hey, you have to learn all this music right now." And so seeing her like working on this stuff before rehearsal and after rehearsal for the first couple months of the season, and then seeing the lot videos and what the show's going to progress to, I think it's really cool to get that behind the scenes vibe of it. And I think they're going to be awesome. And the same thing, those guys, I think that, Travis is such a unique writer in the way that he writes battery percussion. I think it's kind of similar, but totally different to the way that Mike writes. And so I think it's just, for me, it's those guys that are like, this is the normal of what this activity is, and I don't even care. I'm going to do my own thing. That's the writing that I love to hear.
Hey, speaking of East Coast, have we heard any news from that Massachusetts powerhouse, Dartmouth High School?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I don't know what the show is, but I know that they came out there and they got the highest score at the Trumbull competition out of any division. They narrowly edged United out. So actually, that's a good idea here. Why don't I go through some of the scores? I tried to grab the groups that won most of these regionals and the kind of highest scores. So looking at Trumbull, we actually had Springford High School winning A. Which, are any of you guys familiar with Springford High School?
Yeah, they're in our local circuit, and same for our circuit for marching band too. And it's an up and coming program, which I think is I saw a video of their show from Trumbull, and it looks great. They're doing really cool things. So I think they're definitely one to be on the lookout for in Dayton this year.
Yeah, it's interesting because they historically haven't been allowed to compete in Dayton because I'm drawing a blank. What's the name of their former director?
Well, Mark Thurston's
kids
went through there, so yeah, they were not able to compete in Dayton, but now they're all long graduated and grown-ups and doing their own awesome things.
Yeah, and I think since Mark Thurston, he might not be running the program in the same way that he used to be, so I think now they don't consider it the same conflict of interest. So Springford used to just like clean house at the local regional circuit for their area, and then like groups would go to WGI and do well there, but they would know that they got beat by Springford at their local So it's kind of cool now to see that like this program's going to get the chance to actually go compete nationally. I thought it surprised me to see them on there because I didn't realize they were ready for that.
Yeah. Not so bad having Mark Thurston be your director.
Yeah, they were probably pretty okay with winning maps and having Mark Thurston, I would have to imagine. Anyway, though, rest of that competition, we had Old Bridge win open class with an 81.4. Spartans Indoor won Independent Open with a 75.65. Then we had Dartmouth winning Scholastic World with an 87.5 and United winning Independent World with an 86.45. Getting down to the Orlando Regional last weekend, Hialeah Gardens High School won A class with a 77.1. Stoneman Douglas won Scholastic Open with a 76.8. Infinity 3 won Independent Open with an 80. Do you guys, wait, this is something I'm kind of curious about too, Callie, because it's already a huge, I don't want to call it a mess, but there's a lot of logistics and a lot of planning just to have 2 ensembles. How does
Yes.
Infinity even like have 3? What do you do?
Oh goodness, it is. I think the reason why we've gotten to 3, and this is just my personal opinion. You know, the indoor scene in Florida is for independent is pretty limited. You've got South
Right.
Florida groups, talking specifically like world class. You've got one South Florida group, and then you've got Orlando. Otherwise, if the next closest group is going to be MCM, so you'd have to take a flight or do a pretty long drive to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're pretty saturated. I mean, we've got like incredible talent in the area, but we're pretty saturated. So I think that's kind of what's made this like big like trickle down organization kind of happen. But the logistics are insane.
That's what I'm
Now,
curious.
now that we have 2 world class, so Infinity 2 is now world class, and then I3 is open. It's very interesting. We've gotten lucky enough to be partners with a lot of the high schools in the area. So Infinity 3 actually rehearses in Gainesville, which is about a 2.5, 3-hour drive from Orlando. And then Infinity 2 is in a little bit further from like the Infinity home base. They're about a 45-minute drive. They're still in Orlando. And then we're in Oviedo. So we're at 3 separate schools. We have these incredible partnerships with them, mostly because a lot of our staff are the band directors at those schools. So we're lucky enough to, for like our other groups to use their trailers, and use their, transportation and the facilities. We just have such a beautiful and generous facilities agreement with all of our places. We are so lucky. And it's a lot of work to, no, they're awesome. We are so lucky. Like when I talk to people about like our rehearsal spaces and the fact that we're able to like be in so many different spots of one school, they're so generous. And it's because we have this like very big working relationship with all of these schools. But yeah, the logistics are crazy. And also just competition wise now at like Infinity and Infinity 2, now we're like technically competing like with family, which I think is so funny. It's such an interesting dynamic. So, like, I don't know, but it's definitely difficult, but to get all of those kids in some sort of independent marching group and get them those opportunities, it's so worth it. So
Callie, it must be impressive seeing 3 semis roll up to a show with Infinity 2 at I3. Just you guys have like a compound of so many drummers.
It's hilarious. It's and the best part is that you'll see everybody wearing like their Infinity shirts, and I'll see kids like in, and we all have our 3 separate types of uniforms. So I'll see kids in like their different uniforms and they got their Infinity shirts and I'm like, oh, okay, which ensemble are they in? Like it's so funny. We roll up like an army, which is hilarious, but it makes really good relationships and really good like a family dynamic. So we got lucky,
For sure.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. At United, we have a similarly good relationship, but with one facility. We have one good big facility that can handle United and UP2. If we had a third group, we would need to change everything. The entire structure would need to go.
Oh, yeah.
So that's crazy. Shout out to your director for managing all those logistics.
Yes.
I want no part to do with it, but I appreciate it.
Me either.
Anyway, back to the world class groups here. So Strike came in with a 77.3 at the Orlando finals. I2 with an 80.65, which is this I2's first year of world class, or did they do it last year?
It's their first year starting in world class. I believe they were bumped last year, just the same thing as I3 was bumped, and they just decided to continue to re-enroll. So yeah, first year, I'm super excited. They're kicking butt.
Crazy that they came out and they're just like beating Strike. Which is wild.
It's wild. And it's also, this was our first competition we got to see Strike. And I have so many friends there and so many people that I even did Boston who help at Boston staff, and they come and they work with Strike. So I don't know. There's always been this like silly like, you know, rivalry, I think, like back in the old days between the two groups, but now it is just so like we have a lot of kids that march Infinity now that did strike, you know, so we have such a strong bond with them. It was awesome to see them come out, and they are coming out swinging absolutely this season. So it's awesome. I'm Florida. I'm Team Florida.
Florida's biggest fan down there.
That's me.
And then, of course, we have Infinity with a wonderful 87.4. Having a great first show out there. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
And then out there in Temecula, we had Los Alamitos High School winning A class with an 81.35. Great Oak High School narrowly beats out Rancho Cucamonga, like we were talking about earlier, to win Scholastic Open with an 80.775. I love Rancho Cucamonga. I don't know who named the town that, but that's the best town in America.
I live in Rancho Cucamonga.
You live in Rancho Cucamonga?
Yeah. And whenever I'm on a call with like customer service and they're like, "Well, what's your city?" I'm like, "Rancho Cucamonga." And they go, "Is that really it?" I'm like, "Yes, it's a real town. It's a real city. It's really beautiful."
Awesome.
A real place in California, with apparently some real good drum lines too, because it seems to Rancho usually puts out a good program. Don't they also usually host a SCPA show too?
Yeah, for the past couple of years they've had an SCPA show. I don't know why they didn't get it this year. We've had a lot of different logistics changes and like where shows are happening. Like for the first time ever, we hosted a show. SCPA hosted a show at Chino High School, and they just got did a brand new redesign of their campus, which that school's over 100 years old, and it was time. But it was a really great show to be at Chino. But yeah, Rancho usually does a show there, and the only problem with Rancho is that they're built on levels, so it's kind of a haul to bring all your equipment up from the lower lot to the upper lot, and high school kids.
That can be tough, but it's getting them ready for the tunnel in Dayton, I guess.
Right.
So we had that in Scholastic Open there. Great Oak narrowly beat out Rancho. Did you get to see Great Oak at all? Or
yeah, and like Great Oak is kind of like the Dartmouth of the West Coast. They do theatrical drumline shows. Like last year's show was all about. This year's show is all about like in the 1920s and newspaper articles. So they wear like costumes that are not like uniform costumes. They actually look like characters. And John Zuniga is heading up the program out there, and it's just really, really great to see Great Oak still making that push to world class. And Rancho Cucamonga, man, they've had their ups and downs the past couple of years, but they've been on a tear the past 2-3 years to really make the jump, and they're killing it. They're absolutely killing it. They have a heck of a program going on.
Yeah, they were close there.
Oh yeah,
because those scores too. I mean, it's never really that valuable even to compare scores across competition, like I've been doing all day in this call. But they're close. It's like the highest scores in Open in the country right now are like an 81 and a half. So to be like coming in there around a 80, you're in the mix for sure.
Absolutely.
So things heat up a little bit, as they always do when you get to the world class level for these sorts of regionals. Scholastic World, we had Vista Marietta and Chino Hills. Vista Marietta came in with an 85.15 and Chino with a 90.35. Chino Hills' strongest caption this time was Viz, which is no surprise to me. They're always wonderful at Viz.
Yeah, it's nice that John Mapes' wife is a choreographer, and she does a choreo for Pulse and POW, and now she's doing it for Chino Hills, and her level of repertoire in terms of movement is just so much fun to watch, and what she can get these high school kids to do with their bodies is insane. Especially like at Chino Hills, because we know those kids when they were in middle school, and there's no way that they could do that type of movement in middle school. We see them walk.
So that's funny. That's actually not funny. That's interesting, because all of us from the outside perspective just look at Chino Hills and we're like, it's magic. There's something in the water. They know how to do it. But you're saying that when they come to the middle school program, they're just middle schoolers like everyone else for the most part.
Yes. They're yes, they don't know nothing about nothing. And they start in the summer with a couple camps with the high school, and then when school starts up, it's 2 days a week for an hour and a half, and then they go.
That's interesting though, because if you start them out with the high school, they get to see, and their first impression of what they're trying to do is the top end of world class in the activity.
Yeah.
So then they go back to their middle school, but they know their only impression of drumline is the best drumline that they could possibly be, really.
Yeah.
So
our drum staff took the middle school kids to the Pulse preview show because it was at Chino Hills, and Shirley, the front ensemble coach, is like, all right, this is the best in the world. This is what the best in the world looks like before the season starts. Here you go. Here's the standard. And then the kids are just like, okay, so this is what we have to strive for. And then they go.
That's crazy,
such an
though.
Incredible opportunity.
Yeah,
it goes
to prove that they're just like clay.
It's so interesting you bring that up, because that's something. My program back here in the East Coast is we're an A-class program, and it's something we try to emphasize whenever they see Dartmouth or Chino or Ayala and get their minds blown. It's like, they're kids just like you. They've got the same drama, the same homework, the same problems. They're just like you. And I think it's a really cool perspective for anybody to have, and especially those, coming into middle school. And it's like, oh, I could totally do that because they were me 2 years ago. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. It's pretty neat that we get to see behind the curtain a little bit whenever we get to talk to you, Chris, because it really is like the most unique program in the country, the most consistent program for sure.
It's insane. I'll tell you that.
I agree, but I don't think I'm alone. I think everyone agrees.
A few years ago, I was like 2010 or something like that, and it was like Ayala first, Chino Hills second, and Chino was sixth. So 3 out of the top 6 were from the same school district. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And Ayala High School, their junior high, Canyon Hills, they have a killer marching program too. Like they won SCPA last year. We were second. But those kids get the same instruction then when they go to Ayala, and then RCC. So it's that level of pyramid of escalation for the Ayala program too.
Right. So it's vertical alignment is kind of what you're saying, that like if you really are trying to make a world-class group that competes at the very top level, what you need to do is you need to build out a high school, and to build out the high school, you need to build out the middle school under it. And then if you wait a generation's worth of time, then you might see some really, really, really high quality, high school performance. It's a lot of work, but I think we're trying to get it happening out here. The East Coast has not caught up to the West Coast, but I know some people that are trying to get these middle school drum lines cooking. Maybe we'll get them soon.
That'd be great. We'd love to see it.
I'd love to see it too. But wrapping it up with the independent world for the Temecula Regional, we had Vessel with a 76.1, Dark Sky with an 83.15, PAL with an 84.925, Broken City with a 90.0, and Pulse with a whopping 92.4 at their very first performance in February. Which is it's a testament. I think it's both a testament to how clean and good they are, but also how clean and good the rest of the groups are. Like if you just look at judging for what it is, there's 5 world-class groups competing against each other that day, and there will be a great like stratification between the top of the line and the bottom of the line. So there's going to be gaps between all these groups, and that's going to put a group like Pulse, if they come out and they really are the best, it's going to put them up in the stratosphere day one. That's just the way that judging is going to work. But that's not to knock them either. I watched a video and they're way cleaner today than many drum lines will be in April. So like they've got, I was going to say they've got something going on out there, but we've been talking for the last 10 minutes about exactly what they have going on out there. We know how they did it. We know how they continue to do it. It's They just do it the best.
Yeah. Also,
What do you guys think?
To have a 92 in February is insane.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, like, what would you do now if you were like John Mapes and all them? Like, you look at your show and you're like, okay, I know we need to change things. We didn't really get feedback that indicated anything needs to be changed, but
well, you always know they always have an alternate ending. Everyone has an alternate ending. So
they know, they have their plan so that they're not peaking in February. They know exactly what they want to do in April and in March.
Then they'll do their fun stuff, like they'll get the new drum covers that matches the show, and they'll cover up the harnesses so they go blend away, like all those little tiny details that just brings the GE level that much higher.
And not to mention too that I think a big part of their process out there is like get the right show out in February so that you can get actually clean outside in the wonderful California weather, and then just be undeniably ruthless in competition.
That's true, and that's one of the things that everyone out here is they're like, we're gonna have the show. We want to make sure the show is solid, and we're gonna put out 3/4 of the show at the first competition. You know, everyone, including the junior highs, and that's something interesting this year in SoCal. Everyone from Scholastic Junior all the way up to Independent World are at least putting out 4 minutes a show at the first show, which is something that didn't really happen the past couple of years, where you get like the junior highs putting out like 1.5 minutes and the Scholastic A putting out like 2 minutes. But everyone's coming out with 4 minutes of solid show from the get-go. So from a T&P perspective, I'm like, no one is getting penalties for being under time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I feel like the activity is like finally really, really recovered from COVID and is like pushing past the heights that it did prior to any of that, you know? Because I felt like for a bit there was a little bit of a lag where people's careers got interrupted and they maybe stopped drumming for a while. But like now, especially with what you see coming out of like regions like California, it's like this is beyond anything we've ever seen before, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty
really,
crazy.
really pushing things forward. So I'm excited to see where things go across the next couple weeks. We'll probably get another one of these up maybe in 2 weeks or so. We'll see what comes out and down the pipeline of WGI regionals between now and then. But thank you all for hopping on the call. Callie, thank you for coming and giving your 32 counts, telling us a bit about what's going on down in Infinity. And good luck with the rest of your season.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been a blast.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for popping on, and we will see you all at the next rehearsal on a water break.